Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk About It, Steph. We got a great show tonight. We're going to talk about a few little things there, and then we're going to hit it with the real talk tonight. So, let me introduce my guest tonight. It's Calvin, and we
Hey,
have Marty Mark on here. So, thank you guys for tuning in with us tonight and coming in here, and we're going to talk about some stuff tonight. Y'all ready?
Let's
yeah,
go.
I'm ready.
All right then. How's your week going so far?
Oh, just terrible, terrible. I didn't win. I didn't get my picks and my sports bets. I lost some money on that. I should have been a billionaire by now, but it's all good. I'm still here.
Okay, well, I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, for now.
Okay. Mark, how's your week going so far?
Well, I'm still breathing, so that's always a good thing.
Hey, that's a plus. There's a lot of people didn't wake up today. They wish they
Yep,
would have because they have stuff to do.
yep. Some people just couldn't finish the race.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, I had a pretty decent week. I had literally almost forgot what day it was. I was sitting up there like, today Thursday? I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, shoot. It's been a busy week for me, though. It's been a busy week, but hey, I'm enjoying it. I'm above ground. I'm with you, Mark. I'm above ground, and life is good. I ain't got nothing to complain about, except for I need some good food around here.
Mm, mm, mm. Well,
That's all.
Thanksgiving is right around the corner, so that might be something in the forecast.
I think we're gonna have to order. I think we're gonna have to order that food, but that's how it is. But I sure do appreciate you guys for jumping in with me tonight. And those of y'all that are first timers to Let's Talk About It Stuff, please don't forget to like and share. That helps with algorithm. And it also helps this page out some, like and share, pass it on, like, share, do your thing. But thanks for tuning in. So we're going to talk
Mhm.
about Mike Johnson, who is the new House Speaker. And we're going to talk about the human trafficking that's rising in our Houston and Dallas Fort Worth area. And we after that, we're gonna talk about real talk. So y'all ready?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Let's see.
All right. So we're gonna get ready to cut in here. Those y'all that need to get yourself together, go ahead on and do that because in a minute we finna get to the get down. All right.
All
So
right, all
hold
right.
tight.
Okay, all right. I'm holding.
That's our beat. Y'all ready?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get this party started. So we're gonna talk about Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is a politician from Louisiana. After
Shreveport.
three
Yes,
long,
sir.
yeah, he's from Louisiana. He is a Trump supporter, a big time Trump supporter. So who knows what's gonna wind up happening? But it took 3 long weeks for them to finally get a House Speaker. So hopefully they will wind up getting something together and we come together as a country and do something right, because
Mm.
first off, we got a lot of stuff on the books that need to be taken care of. We got bills to pay. We got to make sure our troops out there getting paid. We got federal workers out there that's wondering, okay, y'all gonna shut down or what? I think I'm gonna do PTO. That's what a lot of them saying. Hey, prepare the other people because I'm not gonna be out here watching that border. So please get y'all stuff together out there, DC. Work together, get some bills passed.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Do you know any of the bills that he's passing right now?
No, I have no idea, but I'm quite sure he's coming up with some stuff.
Okay,
Hopefully,
well, do you know what his past is? I mean, I personally don't know much about him, but has he done anything credible that's out of the norm or is significant?
no, he really hasn't done anything that's really out there that's significant. The only thing he was a uh, voter denier. He voted. He was basically saying that Biden did not win the election. Um, he's pretty much a Trumpster, so you just never know what you're gonna get. I'm gonna try to hope for the best and hope that his past does not make our future worse than what it already is, and that he puts aside whoever he affiliates with and look out for the best interests of the country. That's what I'm hoping for. There's a lot of things that need to be taken care of. They're getting ready to try to send money over to Ukraine and over to Israel, you know, because of those wars going on over there. And a
Hmm.
lot of people
You
are
know,
upset
actually,
about
now that you bring that up, yeah, people are mad about that because the same funded money that we're sending over to Ukraine is actually being turned over to the what they call them, the Hamas. So it's actually it seems like
Hamas.
we're supporting another terrorist organization like we did with Al Qaeda, and it sounds like we just keep running into the cycle of making our own ghost. We keep making our own boogeyman, and
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people don't support the war and won't support the war. It's because they know it seems like a business at this point. And the whole thing with what's going on in the Middle East, technically that's none of our concern. But the fact that we're allies with Israel, that should make it our concern. But personally, I believe that it's a little deeper than that. I feel as if how do I say this? Even if we weren't aligned with them, we would still fight for them because I feel as if it's the people of Israel that actually own America. This is going to sound like this is on the edge here, but if there's someone you can't criticize, that's probably the person that controls you. Like how it is in North Korea, they can't talk about Kim Jong Un. In China, you can't talk about the Communist Party. What else? At Cuba, you can't talk about the Communist Cuban Party over there. And over here in America, you just can't talk about the Israeli and the state. But yeah, that's how I see it as. I see it as more of a business, and some people aren't liking the whole business deal, and they're fighting over there, and we're being dragged into it because they're our boss.
Interesting.
How do I
Yeah.
say? Old promises need to be held due to the fact that we've long always been a supporter over there, and I guess maybe out of over religious reasons, possibly. But I do kind of agree to the fact that it's more of a business than it is a political thing because they used to do the same thing when it came down to the Vietnam Wars and everything, try to do the whole communist scare and everything. But now we got this whole new thing going on. And honestly, I feel like, and this is just me, I don't have much information on any of this either. But I feel like, as far as American politics goes, I feel like they need to take a step back and reassess the situation, not just better, but they need to get a better grip on this and not also let the people make their own decision because we're paying all the tax dollars, we're putting in all these labor hours, and at the same time, we're the ones who actually have to enlist and go into the military and fight these people and confront them. And I'm sure we have allies that are trying to do the diplomacy side of war, where they're trying to reduce as much havoc as possible. While
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I feel like we're living in a time where people are, because resources are small and a lot of territories are trying to be drawn, and a lot of a new change in the world is getting to that point where people feel they need to do to the extreme just for them to stay relevant or present or have some kind of foothold in the upcoming decades. It's just it's a lot going on. So yeah, I feel like you right now that most people don't really trust what's being said anymore to where it's like, I want to fight for my country, but is it actually my country I'm fighting for, or is it the American way that I'm fighting for, or is it just another business idea that I'm just being thrown at again? There's a lot of skepticism and non-trust. So yeah, I'm kind of right there with you.
Hmm.
Well, I definitely understand where both of y'all are coming from on that. And that's something that we're going to discuss on Real Talk after that. But I just want to make sure that we recognize that we have a new House Speaker, Mike Johnson. He is from Louisiana. He is a Trump supporter. Um,
So I have a question. What defines someone as being a Trump supporter?
he was a election denier.
Okay.
So yeah, he was a election denier, and he tried to overturn the votes. So that's what caused him to be a Trump supporter because that's what he is. He's a Trump supporter. Trump backed him, and that's what it is. He got the backing of the ex president. So we don't know what's going to wind up happening. I think that they probably could have found somebody else that was better suited that everybody can agree on, but all the GOPs backing this guy, so you never know what happened behind closed doors. So the only thing I'm saying, I'm gonna try to keep it positive because at this time we looking silly out here as a country when we're fighting amongst each other. You got the GOPs fighting amongst each other like that, and it makes us look like we're weak. And United States is not a weak country at all. By all means, we're not weak. We just got some family feud going on that needs to be put to a rest, because at the end of the day, we all got to work together. We got to work together. Hakeem Jefferson is a great minority speaker for us on the Dem side. He's a good guy. I think that he means well for this country, and I hope that both sides can come together and let's get the stuff done. We got stuff that needs to be taken care of. That 45 days is almost here, and we haven't gotten things taken care of. Like, Biden just pushed those two bills that he wants to pass, which I agree. I don't think we should take care of them like that with all that money, and we got stuff going on here. But here's the thing: if we don't take care of them and we leave them helpless and stuff, who's to say that those enemies are those my enemies are, or my their enemies are now my enemies? You know what I'm saying? So we got to kind of like take care of them on the backside. We take care of ourselves because we don't want that here. We don't. We just don't want that trouble over here. We want to keep that over there and not bring that over here. And there are people that are sitting up there that desperately need our help. Yes, Israel is our ally. Do I agree with some of the stuff that's going on? No, I think both of them, both sides got issues and they need to sit down because I feel like their family ain't do it. I think we should be over there fighting it. No, we should not be getting involved in it. Do we need to aid them? Get do humanitarian aids over there? Yes, we do because there are innocent people over there that's getting slaughtered. There's innocent people over there that are now homeless. They don't have a place to go to really. So they need food, they need water, they need clothing because it's not their fault that you got Hamas fighting them and killing the Israel folks over there, and Israel doing the same thing that Hamas is doing in so many words. But at the end of the day, you get tired when somebody keep pushing you, pushing you, pushing, and then you want to fight back. So at the end of the day, I think that the head leaders need to come together and stop it because you're killing innocent people that don't have nothing to do with that. That's y'all issue. Figure it out, you know. But that's just my thought. It's my opinion. I just feel like everybody needs to come together because what's your purpose? What's your end game? I don't think they have one. Till everybody's dead, nobody's standing. That's my thought. But hopefully, this new House Speaker can pull the parties together and work both sides. And we just try to get some things done to take care of our country. Because my focus is right now is our country because we're in so much debt. We have so much mental health issues going on in our country. We have we just had a mass shooting yesterday out in Maine. This guy comes in there and oops, starts, powering people and stuff. Sorry about that. But it's a lot of stuff that's going on out here in our country, and that we need to be paying more attention and trying to fix the problems that we have. Yes, we need to help our neighbors, but we also need to help ourselves as well, because we're in trouble. Whether we see it or not, we're actually in trouble. You know, and you got people sitting up here trying to divide us, and we're not paying attention to what's going on in our own country because we're too busy fighting amongst ourselves. So my suggestion is both sides, y'all need to sit down, stop all that bickering, and let's work together and fix the issues that we have here in our country. Period. But that's just my saying. So we're gonna move on off of that subject and move on to one that nobody's really talking about. Um, a couple of YouTubers have said something about it, and we heard it. We know about some things as far as this thing called human trafficking. There's a lot of human trafficking going on in the United States and in the state of Texas. Houston, human trafficking is on the rise. So it's like they're not just taking grown women, they're taking little kids, they're taking boys and they're taking girls. Um, it was told by an alleged FBI agent that she's no longer working undercover, and she went into this bar and she found out that they had kids in the back room lined up on the wall, and the person can go in there and pick who they want, and they do their business with that child. And then once they're done, the child comes back and stand in line, wait for the next person to come and pick them or whatever. So the human traffic is really, really bad out there in Houston, and it's bad out here in the DFW area as well. All I can do is tell everybody, y'all be safe out there. Pay attention to your surroundings. If something don't feel right, something don't look right, it's probably not right. You know, pay attention when you're going out at night. I know I have a habit of going places at nighttime, but I'm always letting somebody know where I'm going, and how long I'm supposed to be there. So somebody had a time stamp of, okay, she went this place, she's with these people and stuff. What you guys got to say about that?
Demarcus, I don't think we can hear you.
Yeah, my mic is on.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay. Um, yeah, what I was about to say, as far as human trafficking, I'm actually surprised it's actually on a rise because we've been fighting for quite a long time trying to end it. Like we got actual cops on it, we got people trying to keep their eyes on it. We have all these extra precautions. It's honestly surprising that somebody is actually willing to kidnap children, women and children, and sell them. Like I can understand poverty always breeds the worst type of people, but at a certain point, if you don't have a conscience and you're honestly okay, or let alone you're willing to contribute to just selling human lives overseas or wherever, it's like what kind of person would actually do that? Like, I don't understand why it would even be at the rise. I mean, personally, I feel like it's not that. I don't feel like it's that much worse than it already is because I feel like it's just the media is putting it out more. But then when you look at all the Amber Alerts that's been going on like clockwork, or like we can barely go a whole month without getting at least what, like 24, 35 different Amber Alerts, different areas around Texas, let alone around other states. It's actually kind of surprising, to be honest, because it's like it's at a certain point, it's one of those common sense you need to realize, like you're literally taking life from other people for the cost of your own. And I'm just surprised that there are people out there like that that are okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like it's not just a moral thing. It's a human thing. It's like what kind of person would actually be out here willing to kidnap women and children, and also some men. There are reports that some men have actually been, well, young men that have actually been drugged and kidnapped too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I will say one thing, which I'm pretty sure it's is pretty prevalent, and it's common knowledge. But most of these human trafficking incidences happen either in neighborhoods or around places where you're in the public. And let me start off with the neighborhoods. You don't hear about many human trafficking cases or kidnappings happening in gated communities. And this is why I believe that human trafficking is going to continue for a while, because if the people who actually have the power to actually change how things are run, how safe the streets are, if they are not being affected by it, they're not going to really care as much about it. It's like how we see a tragedy that happens in Libya. We're going to be like, oh man, that sucks, but it doesn't affect us. Until it affects them or until they understand, they won't truly feel the need to actually have things change. You can have people that go out, do the what's it, the neighborhood watch, but eventually it's just going to get it to a point where it seems like it's pointless, because it's still happening, no matter where you go. And as we were saying earlier, it was happening at bars, how kids were being lined up. It would be a surprise if I told you, but what if I told you it was actually the parents who were actually selling these children as well?
I
There's
believe that.
people there's people in their own neighborhoods that sell these children that'd be like, come over here, little Timmy. I know you like to ride your bike everywhere. Yeah, come inside. I got a new bike I just bought. You want to see it? And there's other things that happen too. So it's not like it's just like a white van that pulls up. There's other ways this is happening. To protect your child is to basically you basically got to walk with them everywhere. It's getting to a point, but you have to know your neighbors to know know your surroundings. It's like you can live in the nicest neighborhood, but if you have shady neighbors, the whole neighborhood's shady. If that makes sense,
Well,
and that goes
I
back
believe
into the
that
whole
most of
gated
that.
community. You know.
Those that are shady, they'll sit there and act like everything is normal just so they can blend in, and you would never know that that's the house of terror. Every
Hmm.
time you hear the news, right, you would hear the neighbor saying, well, he was just a sweet person, or they were just a sweet person and stuff. But then I did kind of think they were a little odd. You know, why would you live here and you don't have, this is a neighborhood that got a bunch of kids in here and you don't have any kids at all, and you living over here with kids? It's just kind of odd. A lot of people look at that. You just never know who your neighbors are, even though you think you know your neighbors. Do you really know your neighbors?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So we
But
do have
it's a give or take relationship off that, because I hear that there's a lot of agendas to have more cameras and things like that. So at a certain point, it becomes and this is probably why it's not going to be taken care of anytime soon. But it becomes a issue between privacy and freedom. It's like if you want safety, you have to give up freedom. If you want freedom, it's vice versa. And most people don't want a camera following them all the time, knowing that they're going to work, having someone track them constantly, even your neighbors. No one wants to be followed because it feels uncomfortable. But unfortunately, you have to make people feel uncomfortable to have a safe environment. So I think that's the whole relationship between, I would say a good portion of this nation is just because between privacy and freedom. And then, of course, that turns into a business thing. You got ring cameras everywhere. Everyone has a camera now. But now at this point, you can't even show up to someone's house without being recorded by 10 cameras on your way there. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Not saying I would, I'm just trying to snoop around neighborhoods. I'm just saying, everything has to be filmed at this point.
Well, back in the day when I was growing up, I can tell you this: we did not have ring cameras, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have anything like that, and we would have children that would come up missing, and we didn't know what happened, because nobody knew where that kid was last seen at. That half the time the parents didn't even know what clothes that child had on. Because back in the day, kids throw whatever clothes into their backpacks or whatever, and they go on off their business and stuff and wind up getting kidnapped. It could be anybody that can wind up doing it. It could even be a family member that looking at this person and their family wind up doing the same thing to them. At this time, it's just hard to trust people. Back, like I was saying, back in the day, my dad was 100% against us doing sleepovers culture, so we weren't allowed to do sleepovers because my dad felt like, no, if you're gonna sleep at somebody's house, you're gonna sleep at your own house because I know what goes on in my house. I don't know what's going on in their house. And he didn't care who they were. You know, they
Hmm.
could be our relatives and stuff like that. He's like, no, you stay here. You know, especially if they had boys there at the home. My dad was like 100% like 10 toes down. No, you're not spending the night. And I'll be like, why we can't spend the night? We always have to stay at home. And now that I have kids and how the world has changed 50 years later, the world has really changed a whole lot, or has it? Because you really can't trust people with your children. The people that you think you can trust, you really can't. So you have to be aware of how somebody's rolling too.
Yeah. I mean, all it really takes is a I would say a deep conversation. Get a little uncomfortable with certain things, like uh, it's like this. This is how the mafia actually used to rat out, weed out snakes. They would actually put a piece of false information and tell one person, and if it came back to them, they would know who told them or who it leaked from and all that, and they would find out who the rat was. And what I mean by this is okay. Ask them personal questions in a joking way that seems like, oh, it's serious, but if they joke with it and they're laughing about it too and all that, that's how you know, okay, this person actually, enjoys this topic a lot. Like, let's say someone enjoys, I don't know, seeing like beheading videos. You know how that was a big thing in 2017. That's this person may seem a little, off. Let's, and then if people were to watch certain small signs about what things people enjoy, what they don't enjoy, you can kind of determine the personality of what someone might be. It's really particular. It's actually pretty. It's actually kind of, I don't want to say humorous, but it's out in the open. You just have to look for it. You know, I had this one friend who told me there was this guy. He would make a bunch of like molestation jokes, right? And and this was during my high school years, and so it was a little bit ago. But this guy, he was the he was the weird kid. And well, the reason why I call him the weird kid is because the first time he was caught, touching himself in the bathroom at school. And everyone's, they kind of made fun of him for that and all that because everyone knew who it was. They were like, okay, you're kind of weird, you don't keep it to yourself or at least in private. I was at a different school. I just heard this from my friend who was there. And later on that year, I would say maybe a couple weeks later, he molested this girl who has Down syndrome. And people were wondering, oh, how come we didn't see this happening and all that? The teachers were and we were of course being blamed for it. They're saying, why would this kid do this and that? Well, if you got a kid that's doing all this weird stuff in school, that's a certain special attention you have to give to a certain kid. Like maybe let's keep them or away from the other students. Like I'm not saying exclude them for being weird. I'm just saying let's not put the guy who's being sexually explicit, let's not put him next to a girl who's disabled, or let's put him on the boys' side or something of the bus.
You also got
Because
to
I know
take into
buses
account.
they used to have organized bus where assigned seats and things like that. Let's put the weird kid next to the big jock kid who could beat the. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to go there. I'm just saying, a little bit of organization wouldn't hurt.
Okay, Mark, what you got to say about that?
Well, aside that, that's actually very troubling to hear. Wow. But there's also the fact that there are just some people because they always people like to put it always on the schools, which I understand. But a lot of time people just need to realize that sometimes the issues can start at home. And there are a lot of parents that don't actually know who their kids are because nowadays we got a lot of parents that spend more time at work than they do at home, you know? And when you got a kid who's always at home by himself, or you got a child who's more surrounded by friends and they got some funny friends, and it's the not so funny friends, you understand? And it really comes down to like there's a lot of segregation in many different factors, and because of all that segregation, there are a lot of people that are off that don't understand what they're doing is wrong, or they're doing what, or they know what they're doing is wrong, but no one is around to stop them because it's just like the whole bullying fiasco. You know how like in 2019 there was a huge things with school shootings that were at a rise and everything, and that ended up triggering the whole gun control thing, and that ended up triggering a bunch of people saying, "Oh, they're trying to take our guns away." What them literally trying to ignore the fact that, dude, whether you take guns away or not, you still have a threat that somebody is
Say gun.
still gonna mess with your kid,
Don't say GUN.
huh?
Don't say GUN.
You in?
We'll get flagged for that.
Oh, the point case is just there's a lot of dangers out there nowadays, and I feel as though that people need to take a step back and reevaluate themselves, and not just the people they're surrounded by, but the whole collective. Because the problem is, no one actually wants to talk to each other. Everybody wants to talk at each other. Nobody wants to, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this was also like, I guess I could kind of jokingly say this was brought up in Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie. You know, when he was on that show Murray, when he started mentioning no one is civil anymore. Everybody's always on the offensive, and when things are being brought to them, they get over defensive. Everybody's just in their head about how dangerous the world is, but no one actually wants to work with other people to bring it down. And there's always a battle like this. It's a whole collective of thing about the guy assaulting the other lady, and we got a new politician trying to take house, and we got the sex trafficking. There's just so much happening all together, and I really do hope that in these years to come that we could finally get down to the center of what we actually need to do instead of just reacting, because everybody's very reactive nowadays. I've noticed that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, as far as with this human trafficking thing, I think that the worst thing that we could do is defund the police. I believe that the police need someone watching them so that way they're not seen as the enemy and you hold these bad police officers accountable. But I do feel like that we need to be given more resources for these detectives that are going out there that's every day doing the right things and they're going out there trying to stop all of this human trafficking that's going on because it's not just Texas that have the problem. It's worldwide, but here in the United States, it's like it's just everywhere. And you're absolutely right, you don't hear about this stuff in gated communities. And here's my thought on here. Do we start locking the communities up? Will that make you safer? Or will that
Mm.
open up the doors for something else? That's my thought on there. But y'all, I love this conversation we're having. And we're gonna wrap this side of the conversation up and move on over to our real talk because I know you guys was wanting to do some real talk. So I'm gonna turn this on over. Let's real talk, y'all.
Hmm. Yeah. Marcus, once again, we can't hear you. Your mic is off. But yeah, yeah. What's the next topic?
We are talking about the real talk about everyday life things that's going on, challenging because you never know what's going on out there. I know we're having a lot of issues with a lot of young people that are suffering from addiction. We have people that are suffering from homelessness. It's a lot going on, and we have a lot of people, just not just young people. We have older people too that are just going through things, and we're just gonna do a real talk for a minute. You know, while we got a couple of minutes on here, we're gonna do real talk. Y'all ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, Mark. Let's talk about it. What's your real talk subject today?
I mean, honestly, I guess if you guys don't mind, we could talk about some young Black America. I guess.
Well, let's talk
Young
about
So,
Black
it. That'll be our
America.
subject tonight.
yeah. Um.
So, how do you feel? Let me ask this question for you, and then we can get rolling. So, how do you feel about this is voting season for the amendment out here in Texas. How do you feel about voting as a black young man?
As a black young man, and it comes down to most of these amendments and everything. Well, I'm voting for the people. Like I'm for everybody else, but I need to have more information on which amendment. Which amendment are we talking here?
It's
Because I
like
don't
the
have that much information.
amendment. I'm just generally just asking, how do you feel about voting? Because I know we're having issues on both sides about our young
Uh
people getting out to go vote. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is your thought about going out to vote? Does it matter?
okay, so here's the thing, and I get this question a lot. And you see, the thing is, amongst young people, we do still believe in voting. It's just the fact that, as far as like Gen Z, which has got hit the hardest with this mentality, and late millennials, we're kind of mentally programmed to distrust the government system, not the government, but the system, so much to where we feel that even if we do vote, we feel that our votes don't matter, but not in a traditional, typical sense that people try to put out. It's more like we believe that all the elections are so rigged to where it's like our votes are more of suggestions because they've already chosen who they want. They're only going for the popular vote based off of who can communicate to the people better, you know? And it's not that we don't believe in voting. It's not that we don't believe in the parties and what we need to do to get our community back together. It's not that we don't believe in the process. It's the fact that we're programmed to distrust everything. And since a lot of public schools don't give us the information we need to understand our past and our present, that when you got a whole new generation that's finally in college getting this unadulterated information, like they're finding out all the things that America really did or what China really did. When you all this new information you should have been taught as a young child, or at least as a growing adult, young adult, like a teen. Now that you got all these people that are now starting to realize there's so much more history we don't know, is getting to a point where it's like, well, gosh, are we the bad guys? Are we the good guys? If I vote, will it actually make a difference? And if it does make a difference, does that difference actually carry weight in the results that we're hoping for? Because it's like, take the whole thing with the whole Obama thing. Like, no one really knew who he was until he started running, right? He got most of the votes because of being black. And same thing for Trump. He got those votes not because he was a businessman, but it's because he was a good communicator on speaking the same thing that I guess you could say the lower income areas were thinking. Because who doesn't want to root for a guy who talks down to the running politicians who read off scripts? Who doesn't want to root for a guy that may not have your best interest at heart on the surface, but it's the unorthodox. It's the difference. It's the rebellion. I think we're in a rebellious stage to where people feel we don't need these politicians. And the only way to truly protest that matters is to not vote, because when you don't vote and they do put somebody in power or in a position that does bad damage, there's a mentality thing. Okay, this proves that this proves that that these people that are putting out are pre-selected. They have nothing to do with us common folk. They have nothing to do with us people in the minorities or in certain social groups that are trying to bring these human issues and concerns to the front, but they're constantly being washed over, or worse, being demonized on the media. You know, like imagine you have a very level opinion about cultural traditions. Well, guess what? You got people who don't like that because it goes against their way of life. So they're going to just use the media to smear it. So it's not that young people today, like my generation and your generation, Calvin, on voting. We do believe in voting. It's the fact that we don't believe in the people that we're voting in. We'd rather
So what
not.
can so let me ask this question, and what do you think can change? What do I guess you would say my generation? What can the upcoming politicians do to change and to get your earn your trust? What can happen?
Well, there are two things really. The first is probably the most is I'm not sure if I can say it's the most important, but have results in what they say, because we have a lot of people who try to run and they're so focused on trying to get those votes that when they're finally in the chairman, they're not actually doing what they say they're going to do. They didn't actually have a plan. They don't have anything in motion. It's been it's a long habit that American history has always had, and many other countries have had, where basically it's more about convincing the people that you're the better choice versus just showing them that you're the choice, you know? Like everyone always says, oh, I donate to charity. Well, how many lives has that charity changed? You know, like the Clintons and everything, how they did charities, but most of that money went into their pockets and that's how they got rich. People feel scammed. And the second thing is, um, where are you going to get these votes? Because have you ever noticed that they go to these certain places, but you never see them go down to the projects. You never see them go down to the reserves. You never see them go down to these places where people really need to know that they're being seen, being heard, instead of having
That
everybody that
I hear what you're saying on that, and that's where I have to
yeah
disagree with you on because I know quite a few activists. I know quite a few um, politicians that do care about the communities and they do go out there to the community. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of politicians go into politics because they care about the people and they want to make their community better. You know, do
exactly
we have some bad people out there? Yes, we do. Do we have people once they get in office and do they keep their commitment that they said? No, they don't. And it doesn't even matter what side they're on because it happens on the GOP side and it also happens on the DM side. It happens because sometimes you have this great idea. I want to change the way how people do. You know, I got this platform. I want to use it. And when you get down there to the house or you get down there to the state, it's completely different because you got 40 more people or 200 some people that's voting against your bill. So you're fighting to make a change, but if everybody's not trying to be on the same page with it, it's a rumble. So you do have people I have to defend in a way because there are people out there. There are some good people out there that are trying to fight for the American dream to make sure everything is right. Now, do they win sometimes? Yes, they do. Do they lose a lot? Yes, they do. But I would go for a person that's trying to make a difference and trying to make America better than what it was before because we have a dirty past in America. And I really believe that we need to change the narrative and let the world and let our people that live here in our country feel like they belong. Because right now you have different cultures that feel like they don't belong, even though they have been born here. You know, they feel like they don't even belong in a country that they helped build. You know,
right.
we have outside of people that come in and they're put in better positions than the ones that were here. So I hear what you're saying, but I think as a whole, we do have some good politicians trying to make a difference. Do they take money on the backside? They probably do. I don't know. Just an opinion, but I feel like that we do have some people that are trying to make the difference. You know, that's even on your job. You got
Yeah.
people on your job that are trying to make a difference, but then sometimes you got bad people that outweigh the good people. So it's hard. The struggle is real and it's hard, you
Yeah, and
know.
that go
But
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was trying to say earlier, to where there's a lot of distrust because, like you said, America has a pretty rough history in the past, and as far as Black Americans go, young Black Americans especially, because we're the most skeptical based off on how we were raised to be aware of certain things, not to trust certain things, and I'm sure many other households are in the same boat based in different cultures. And what I was getting at is like take JFK, Martin Luther, Malcolm X, all of these great men who try to change status quo. it's one of those type of things. And I'm gonna quote a movie, and it's like it was an X-Men, and I like X-Men because they have a whole Malcolm X and Martin Luther King dynamic going on. And what Mike Magneto said is the only shame is that he had to die for our dream to live. And it's kind of a shame that these leaders who actually are trying to fight for the people, who actually are trying to bring it to the table, who are trying to make sure that everyone is taken care of and not shunned, not being discriminated, not being pushed out the door because of some old tradition that only certain people are allowed to eat, you know? And it's the fact that those same people that are trying to fight for us, and like you said, they're outnumbered. And younger generations see that they're being outnumbered. And that's why you keep seeing all these protests, because there's not a whole lot that American people know how to do outside of protests and just straight out violence. Because there's going to come a time in the future, if we don't reevaluate and try to change how we operate and how we get things done, it's going to end up pretty bad for everybody, because eventually you got a bunch of people who
So not
rather
to
do
cut
the
you off, Marcus,
extreme.
but that's my point right there.
Yeah.
Hey, that's my point. What can be done to change your views?
Mm.
What can you do? We need to y'all need to get involved. Have you went to go vote? Are you helping with the elections? Are you going to go sit down with your representative and viewing your points? That's what I think a lot of the young people need to do. Come to these meetings, get involved, go to your counseling meetings so you know what's going on instead of looking outside judging. You need to come in and get involved, because at the end of the day, it's going to affect y'all's future, so you have to get involved. Quit looking on the outside. Come in, open up the door, come in, get involved. Get involved. There's a young man right now, Collins is running for commissioner. And
Yeah.
he's a young guy. I think he's under 25 years old. He's getting involved. And there's also this young guy that is gonna be the youngest mayor, in one of these towns. And I'm like, it's good that a lot of young people are getting involved, but we need a whole lot more of you young people and young minds to get involved, because this is your country too. And you
Yeah.
definitely need to get involved. You know, Calvin, what you got to say? You quiet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he just said everything I was thinking. I mean, there's nothing really much I can add to it.
Yeah, because what I
Okay.
was really trying to, I'm sorry to cut y'all off. What I was really trying to get at is, well, I guess you could say it's the third thing that needs to be done, is also update the educational system, because I've watched several videos and talked to many people when I lived in college towns. I lived in the UNT college town, the TCU college town, and the Texas Tech college town once, and they have a completely different views, if you will, on what politics actually is. And I hope this doesn't come off too much as a conspiracy. But I feel like from what I've seen, when you see those woke kids actually go to those politician meets and everything, trying to get involved, and you actually hear what they're saying, and they don't really sound as educated as they think they are. So it's not that we need to be involved, it's the fact that we need to be educated, so when we are on the scene, not only do we understand what's going on, but we can actually articulate how we feel and think and what needs to be done, because we have a lot of people who don't really understand what it is because we weren't taught that. And that's what it brings you back
Okay.
to where,
Hold that thought. So you're saying being educated, are you saying being educated in the school level or being educated from home? What do you mean when you say educated?
I mean educated in, how do I say, educated in the world as an adult, because when you leave high school and you become 18, a lot is expected out of you that my generation and below is unaware of what we were supposed to be able to do, like I'm sure it was different your generation, where when you were in school, trade schools was more of an option versus going straight to university or military, right? Well, I'm
No, we had
saying,
the same option that you guys had. Y'all stuff is a lot more advanced, because when I was coming up, we had computers, but it wasn't as advanced as what you guys are exposed to.
Right.
Now, from where I came from, I grew up in a state that they taught Louisiana history. They taught U.S. histories, and I'm quite sure it's taught here and throughout the country. But nowadays, they're trying to take a lot of the things about U.S. history out because they don't want those other people do not want their kids to learn about the dirty part of the United
Exactly. That's
States.
what I'm talking
But
about.
here's the thing, though, they're doing it to this next generation. Your generation was taught. Now, if you were paying attention, that's on you.
Well,
A
my
lot of
my
people
generation
were
was
going to
my generation
school and they
was
weren't
the
listening
first.
to what was being taught, and then too, some of the teachers may not understood the lesson themselves. So it's like we got to watch who's teaching our kids.
I know, but I said, like, when I was in those schools and everything, when I actually had to do those studies and be taught by those people and actually lived it for my generation, like I said, like Junior said, where or you when they said that they're trying to hold information, because my generation, at least that I've noticed, maybe it was the older millennials, like, because I don't know if I'm like a first Zoomer or a late millennial, so it's one or the other. But at a certain point, they started filtering what was allowed to be taught, and I know, and I'm sure you've noticed that there are certain things that they won't teach in school. Not saying there are certain things they don't belong to school. I'm just saying there's a certain form of information that needs to be taught, so when you become an adult, you understand what's needed and what you need to say. Hey, and my generation was the beginning of like this bubble to where it was so focused on making sure that we only knew this linear fashion, to where that when you go to college and that bubble's basically popped, it makes us vulnerable to false information, because now you got these my generation or something where we're basically arguing over what gender is, when like sex ed was like a high school level thing, when you already know that. So it really comes down to who's teaching these people, because now you got a bunch of information that's coming off as brainwashed, to where you got people that think that, oh, your genitals have nothing to do with your gender. Just by feeling like a woman, that makes you a woman. By feeling like a man, it makes you a man. It's like the educational system is not as stable as it used to be. Like, yeah, we're advanced, but because we're so advanced, we're being targeted to be manipulated. And like you said, there, like how there's certain generations that aren't being told what the previous generations done, and now that they've been taught that, like when they try to bring down the Christopher Columbus statue, you if we are in like the whole cancel culture thing, and I really don't like cancel culture, and I'm sure nobody does. Instead of you trying to delete the past, and instead of, you should be learning from it, accept the fact that this is how it was, so let's use as an example to not repeat it. But no, we're dealing with a time where instead of just teaching how to get over this situation, not like get over it, but more like get through it, learn from it so it doesn't happen again. Instead, they'd rather delete the past, delete the things that are found that are deemed inappropriate or anything. And if anybody has an objection for it, they're basically silenced or canceled, because like on social media, you don't really have an opinion anymore.
Okay, this
It's
is where
always an
I'm gonna say
algorithm.
this is where I'm gonna say that's why when I first said something about voting, this is why it's so important for people to get involved in what's going on in their communities, because a lot of parents did not know that there were certain books in the library. A lot of
Yeah.
parents do not know what subject the teachers are teaching, which I feel like, and I don't know if they're doing it now, but I feel like the teachers need to have a whatever their 6 week plan is on what subject that they're supposed to be teaching, that the parents know exactly this is what we're teaching for this 6 weeks period. So that way we're all on the same page and know what
Yeah.
our kids are being taught. But here's the thing too. I know everybody want to beat up on the teachers, But I feel like parents need to be involved in the kids' life. I know
Yes,
parents have to get
definitely.
out there and go and work and make a living for their family, but I also believe it is your responsibility as a parent to go out there and teach your kids the history. So, okay, so you got Florida Governor DeSantis trying to take out Black history out of their state that he don't want anybody knowing anything about Black history. Texas is basically falling behind Florida, which I'll never understand that. But I believe we can follow our own thing, and I feel like that's the wrong thing to do is take Black history out. I also believe that I feel like you should not take those statues down because I want to know exactly what area I'm at. But that's just my opinion on that because I believe you're erasing history. Should we have those memorial sites? No, we shouldn't, but we shouldn't. We should have something where people understand the history of that town. You know where you at. You know, a lot of people
Yeah,
don't even know what sundown town is. You know, they don't know that there were towns out there that you as a black person or a brown person, you had to be out of that town by dusk. By when the sun gets ready to go down, you need to be out of there, or you're gonna be hung in trees. You know, a lot of people didn't know that that's still going on. Here it is, 2023, and there's still a lot of towns that's like that. And I agree. No, the teacher's not gonna teach everything because you got it's politics into education now. I believe a lot of kids now versus when I was coming up, they're being taught how to take tests and they don't understand what's going on. Only I feel like only the strong will survive. You got kids that will never understand, and that's why they're gonna be left behind. So it's up to the parents. If you know this is happening in your school, you got to get involved. You got to go ahead and go buy these books. Go ahead and start teaching your kids what's the, what they need to know, so that way they're better prepared. Now, me as a
right,
parent, I did my best as trying to teach my kids the best I could with what I had, and I feel like that kind of like helped ground them a little bit. But at the end of the day, a lot of your lessons came from school, and it's up for the kid to be able to be open to listen to what is being taught and learn the history. And if you feel like that you're not getting something, you need to speak up and say something. And I think that a lot of times we as parents take the power away from the teacher and so quick to want to jump on these teachers and stuff instead of working with the teacher. Like, hey, why can't we work this? So go to the school board and talk to those school board directors and tell them, hey, you know, why are we not teaching this subject? I want this subject to be taught because that's how the other little groups wind up taking certain books out of the school because they went to the school board. You know, they didn't go on social media and talking about it. They actually went down to the school board. They went down to their city councilman. They went there and pitched a fit, and that's how they got those books removed. So it's like we have to get involved in what's being taught to our kids, but we also have to make sure we teach our kids the correct history, so that way
right,
history won't repeat itself. Because at this point in our lives, is that say for instance they get rid of Black history, they get rid of Hispanic history, they get rid of Indian history because they already you barely know the history of Indian because that's one thing the state that I was in, we learned a little bit about Indian history, but it wasn't something that was fully exposed to us. You know,
yeah.
the
It's a
only exposure
narrative.
that we had was basically watching John Wayne. You know, you had to watch cowboy shows in order to understand what was going on. So I totally agree with you on that part. Is that people need to get involved with their children. We need to get in, even if you don't have kids in school, you definitely need to make sure that you get involved. And that's what brings us back around to where it's very important for our young people and middle aged people and people my age, you know, old people, that we need to get involved in what's going on in our community because that's the only way that we can change the way how things are being done. If you don't like it, you need to go out and go to these local um county hall meetings and stuff. Speak up, say something. Go down there to the school board, speak up, say something because if you don't say anything, they say, "Oh, I can do whatever I want to. Ain't nobody getting involved in it." So we got to definitely utilize the resources that we have find out what subject it is that's being taught out there and get involved. If we don't like it, we need to say something. You know, back when I was
Right.
coming up, the churches were involved in teaching Black history. Now things have changed.
Yeah.
It's not being taught unless you're going to the really old school churches and stuff. And I feel like sometimes they're pulling away from it too because everybody trying to make money. So it's very important for parents to educate yourself so that way you can educate your kids. So we won't continue on repeating history because right now in 2023, guess what we're doing, y'all? We are repeating history. We've had all kind of rights being reversed. And it's like we're going back. So here we go again, trying to fight for the rights for there not being discrimination. Affirmative action was taken away because somebody felt like it's no longer needed, and it's still needed. It's still needed. You know, women's rights, women's right has been taken away. It's been reversed. There are people that are fighting against saying that, hey, um, pro-choice. You shouldn't be thinking about pro-choice. You know, a man is telling a woman what to do with her body, and I think that's wrong because she is the one that knows what's going on in her body. She knows what she needs to have done with her body. There are things that happen with a woman, and we need our health system to back us up and take care of us. You know, it's not so much as abortion. It's a lot of things that go on with a woman, and a man would never understand what really truly goes on with a woman. That's why it's important for us to have our rights so we can be able to feel freely to talk about how I'm feeling, you know, and we don't have that space anymore because we have these old white men that are taking away women's rights to where we don't have the freedom to be able to talk about, hey, I'm going through menopause, you know, what do I need to do? It's like you can't talk about certain stuff because they took our rights away, you know? So
And
where do
before,
you say that?
yeah, and before I go, because I gotta take care of some things after.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna leave with it's not just the old white men and everything. It's also these social groups that are kind of pushing and shoving their way through because the whole trans woman and the athletes community is hurting women's athlete sports and everything. We have all these like Black Lives Matter that was meant to basically bring black problem awareness to the surface, but because they didn't want these communities and their issues to be exposed because they don't want people to know who's truly responsible. Just like, you know, the Steen Island incidents and everything. And it's more like we got a bunch of people trying to scream at the top of their lungs for attention and for some kind of action, but they're willing to deplatform each other because they would rather be first instead of last. Like the whole gay community is basically ruining things for women because they would rather say, well, what is a woman? Women are well, like, what is a woman? I'm a woman. I take hormones. I'm a woman. I identify as a woman and everything. And then you got the whole modern feminist from the 2010s to where basically it was deplatforming young men to where you have less young men going to college and everything. So it's not just these old people in charge. Of course, they are still on in hot water. But at the same time, you still have these groups that care more about their needs and their words and their perspective instead of their results and what needs to be done. Nobody actually wants to work together to find the solution. It's almost every man's for himself, and whoever sides with who is with who, you know?
All right,
And it's
Marcus. Well, I hate to cut you off because we're going over our time there. We're
yeah,
going to definitely put a pin on this, and I want us to come back and we're going to do another real talk and talk about these issues. Maybe we should do a whole segment about real talk about things like this here because people need to be aware.
right.
So thank you for all of your great opinions about this here because, you know, we need to know what makes y'all tick. we need to know how you guys are feeling because at the end of the day, a lot of us older people, we don't ask y'all anything because a lot of people have low opinions about young people, and I think that's the wrong thing because y'all have great ideas about things, and we need to be open and willing to listen and get y'all involved. So I appreciate you coming on tonight. We getting ready to wrap this up. I had no idea we've been on here for a whole hour. So yeah, it's been a whole hour. So we getting ready to wrap this on up. Calvin, what you got to say?
Thank you guys for having me. I
Uh,
gotta get going.
We love
I'm
it.
yeah,
We
sorry.
love it. We love it. You coming back, man. You coming back.
Yeah, I'll see you guys next Thursday.
All right. You
all
have a
right. See you
good night.
then.
You too.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Thank
just
you
to
for
wrap it
having me.
all up. It's been a nice conversation.
Yeah. And Junior, Calvin, you had a lot of good points too. I'm sorry I didn't give you a chance to speak.
Well, no, it's fine. Usually in my other times I'm here, I'm hogging up all the time, anyways.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll
That's
catch you guys
what
later.
let's talk about it.
All right.
All right. See you on next time, Marcus. Well, that's a wrap to our show. I appreciate my co-guest coming on tonight. Thank y'all for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Stuff. And once again, we will meet you next Thursday and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to be excited about talking about this real talk by real people. Our young people got a lot to say, and we definitely need to pay attention to what's going on because at the end of the day, 20 years from now, they're going to be the ones sitting in the chair and they're going to be talking about things that we need to be talking about. So let's take care of our young people and make sure y'all go out to go vote. This is voting season time. Make sure you go and pay attention to what's going on. And I will see you next Thursday at 6:30 on Let's Talk About It Stuff. And don't forget to like and share. And I'll see y'all next Thursday. Have a good night, y'all.